We're just about to get started with our second session of Positive Solutions for Families. So we are so glad you're back. And we hope you got a chance to do some of the pieces that, homework pieces that we left you with last week. So we'll kind of take a little time this morning to review. And I'm Karen, I'm back again, and with me is
Christine, I'm back again too.
Yay. Okay, so today, what's happening today? We are going to be working on, first we'd like to go back and review a little bit about what we did. We talked about last week and kind of talk to you about how that went, what it looked like. Because we talked a little bit about how play is so powerful, and that connecting to your kids through play is just one of those things that you need to be doing on a regular basis. And so we had talked about the 10 minutes a day of uninterrupted play, if you could do that. Today, we're gonna go a little bit deeper into play and how powerful it is. We're gonna talk about helping your kids develop some friendship skills and talk about what that's like for them to connect with others. Of course, with COVID and what we're dealing with, it's going to look and feel a little different for some of you who are not ready to have your kids actually physically playing with other kids. We're going to try and talk a little bit more about positive comments of what you say and how you say it and how that's connected to children's behavior. And then we'll give you some more activities to try at home, your homework, and we'll go from there. Does that sound okay? Okay, so as we think about the power of play and how what it does, what it really is thinking about what you're helping your child learn are social skills. So how we get along with one another. The social pieces are really about how we connect to each other. We think about communication. So communication is more than just the words that we say. It's a lot of our body language and the way that we hold ourselves. So for ourselves and for kids. But also this then leads into academic skills, that when we think about academics with kids, that kids need to learn by you as the adult and how you model things, and then how you help support them when they are playing with other kids as well. Because young kids, really, you can't just put them together in a room and say, play together. They need adults. They need adults to help them figure out what that looks like and what that feels like. And they first get that by watching you as the adult. So I think what we are going to explore a little bit more in this is thinking about playtime and the adult's role and what that can look like. We're going to talk about vocabulary and how your vocabulary can really make a difference in communication. And it also can help, all these pieces can help start to reduce challenging behavior. And that's what we really want to focus on today.
So this is me. But before we actually go into this, I think we should do a little round to see if anyone tried any of the 10 minutes of play with your children. And if anything, if it did anything for you, if there was any aha moments, did you have any great bedtimes after you had played? Is there something that someone would like to share? You don't have to if you don't want to, that's totally fine.
And I was going to suggest too, you can also share your failures. And I say that in the sense of maybe we can help brainstorm some other ways that you could do it. If you found that this just didn't work for you, let us know, because maybe what we can do is give you some feedback to kind of figure out how we can help you make it work.
Absolutely. Excellent point.
I would like to share. This is Reedy. I was, before doing this, the session one, I was always playing with her, but sometimes I would get bored and, even encouraging my husband to play with her, and he would, he gets busy with work and things like that. But when I actually was like, okay, I need to put my phone down or stop other distractions, or even just the thought of, okay, this is boring, or, or it's frustrating or anything like that, I would just give her my undivided attention without any judgment. And I seen this, she definitely does the same thing or responds back, meaning like she's throwing the ball or whatever she's doing, like she's showing me her personality. And my husband was mentioning the other day, he went to go play, it was like he went to go see a little football tournament. And he's like, oh, my friend's daughter, she's 5 years old. She's scared to throw. And he's like, well, my daughter over here, she's like, screaming and wanting to throw the ball. So it was really interesting. And I mean, I really feel like kids are much more smarter and much more intuitive if we just give them that opportunity to show us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I thank you for sharing, Reedy. I appreciate that. I think you bring up a really good point that sometimes it's a little bit boring. And I appreciate that and I hear you. And the good thing is that as your child gets a little older and as you start to develop these play skills with them, you can kind of work on the play together to make it a little bit more of a fun time, for lack of a better way to say that. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Anyone else have anything to share? If you don't want to right now and you want to in a little bit, you can feel free to jump on in too if something strikes you, because we'll be talking about a few more things like this in general. I'm sorry, Reedy, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to take note. I forgot that I put myself on pause so I don't make any noise. But yes, I definitely understand. And, it just, we just, I guess, kind of get lost in our everyday life, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, you get kind of lost in it, so it's sometimes helpful. Thanks. Courtney, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I find it really easy to play with my 11-month-old. And I find it very difficult to play with my 4-year-old. Partially because I just don't love pretend play. I don't love doing it. And so it's hard. So I tried to be like, okay, it's only 10 minutes. I can focus for 10 minutes. But then we kept getting distracted by, Pippa waking up from her nap or me having to go do work or just something like that. So I feel like I wasn't very successful with that. But I did try and do compliments.
Well, I think it is hard to figure out the time that it's going to work for you, and it might not be as easy right now during COVID to find those 10 minutes. In some ways, though, it is easier because if you can switch it into a time where you're available and able to do it, it's something you can possibly work on, but it's trial and error. And I appreciate you saying that it wasn't successful as successful as you wanted it to be. I think that's true of everything, completely. And I hear you on the whole pretend play thing. We're actually going to talk about it in a little bit. So,
And I also would suggest this, just don't give up. I know it feels like when you start to do something, if it doesn't work well the first or second time, that you just want to say, well, that didn't work. But what we've really found is that if you keep it up, don't give up. Keep playing around with the different times of day that seem to fit better. Keep playing around with maybe having different things out and available for your daughter. If it's something that you like, if you don't like pretend play, maybe just happens to be there's something else novel in the room that she hasn't seen before or is new, or that maybe she might be interested in, that might be something more that you are interested in. I think it's kind of mixing it up and playing around with it till you find what works.
yeah, I agree. Excellent point. Not giving up. Excellent point.
I do have a quick question. Would you consider if she wants to cook with me, is that
Absolutely.
engaging with her?
Yes.
All right, we do that a lot.
Yeah. If she wants to, the hard part about cooking is that oftentimes there is very specific things that need to be in a recipe. So it's not necessarily her guiding it, but if she's really interested in doing that, and that seems like it's something that you want to move forward, I would say yes, that counts.
And you can also enhance that play by giving her own bowl with a few things that you don't mind if she mixes up in there herself. Like if there's, to make her own little version of whatever you're making. that could be,
Yum.
well, right. I mean, I wouldn't suggest maybe to eat it, but but I think that could be something that would be, I mean, that could be a way to kind of make it a little bit more less structured, I guess, for lack of a better word. But okay, I'm gonna, just in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on a little bit. But anytime that anyone wants to share any more, we will gladly hear what you all did. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what to ask and how to start that kind of play. This is a video that we're gonna show you that is from PBS Preschool U, which I love, and I hope that you will too. And this one is on communicating with your child. Now, the thing that's really interesting about communicating with your child is that I'm sure you're all sitting there thinking, what are you talking about? I talk with my son or daughter all day. This is not a problem. This is not just what we would call normal conversation. There are very kind of specific ways to engage your child in deeper conversation. We have a tendency with young kids, and this is all well-meaning and nothing is inherently wrong with this, but we constantly quiz them. What color are the apples? How many things? We're constantly quizzing, which is fine, but it's not engaging them in conversation, and it's not going deeper, and it's not working on things like vocabulary and different things that when you're always trying to quiz them. And again, I don't think that it's out of any bad place at all. It's just you want to show how successful your child is. You want the world to know that they can count to 4. These are great and wonderful things. But when you're constantly asking for an immediate answer, it doesn't engage conversation. So that's what this video is about. And after today, I will also share this link with you from the pbs.org site, which is the preschool youth site. There are so many wonderful videos, parent videos on this site. I can't even tell you. And it's not the regular PBS site. So it's not where you go to watch Peppa Pig. It's a different site entirely. And I will share it with you afterwards. But Karen, do you want to go ahead and play it?
What color is his body?
What body?
His body, what color is this?
Conversation is essential to how we relate to one another and share experiences. But sometimes when we talk to kids, we tend to dominate the conversation by asking too many questions rather than really listening to what the child has to say. It's important to resist the urge to control the conversation. Instead, let them talk first and often. Kids also respond to genuine curiosity and interest. So instead of asking specific questions like, what color is that? Try more open-ended responses like, how can you tell? Or, how do you know that? The more the child you care for can discuss their interests with you, the more they develop their language skills and the closer you both will become.
Can you say hi? Can you wave? Give your wave.
Infants and toddlers are used to following the lead of adults. But by playing games where you copy kids instead, they learn to be more aware of their bodies and discover how to control their movements better. Repeating the sounds infants make encourages them to continue exploring their voices. Repeating what toddlers say back to them is also useful. It reinforces their thought process, shows them that you're listening to them, and encourages them to continue the conversation. It will also make them feel special that they have your undivided attention. So try a reverse copycat game with the child you care for. You'll empower them to feel in control of their actions and thoughts, which is a key to their becoming a healthy, active adult.
Okay, time to clean up because we are going out as soon as I'm done with this grocery shopping list.
Great idea! You just thought of another way to keep the child you care for learning. By helping to make a shopping list, a child practices things like early reading, art, and math to help them on their path to becoming active learners and responsible grown-ups. But wait, there's more. You will also have turned a grown-up chore into a fun activity for everyone.
So I'm hopeful that if you get the chance to go to this site, there are a whole bunch of these videos that are on different areas of child development. This one, as I said, was really on that communicating with your child. And I think it is really helpful to use that communication maybe a little bit more in depth than possibly what you've done previously. So a little bit more about not about the color of something, but why is the dinosaur so angry? Why do his feet make that bit? Like really talking in depth about what's going on. You'll be surprised by what you hear, and I think that's true. Okay, do we want to go on to the next slide, Karen? All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about the power of play and some parenting practice tips that you can use. First, you want to follow your child's lead. You need to wait, watch, and then join into your child's play. So sometimes we think we absolutely know what they're doing because they've got the car and they're going under the blanket, and the blanket has those little tassels at the bottom of it, and you're thinking, oh, it's a car wash. That's exactly what you're thinking. It looks like it. But if you jump in and you say, I'll wash my car afterwards. What if it's not a car wash? You got to wait and see what they're doing. We don't know what's in their little brains, and what seems logical to us doesn't always seem logical to a child. Or they could just be so involved in their own play that it's not even anything. It's not even a car, right? It's a completely imaginative thing. So watch and wait and kind of observe it a little bit. The next one is talk about what your child is doing. This is a play-by-play. This is literally like, you're putting the car on the top of the mountain. I wonder what's going to happen when you drop it down. Oh, it fell all the way down. I know a lot of what we're saying sounds a little bit silly, but I promise you, the more you practice it, the better you will be at it, and the less silly it will sound, and it will just work for you. It'll just end up being a little bit more successful, and you'll see how much more conversation you get out of your child when you do that. Encourage creativity. This can be tricky for some of us because creativity is not something that some of us go to right away. But when you encourage your child's creativity, it's how you allow your child to be able to take risks. It's a great problem-solving technique. It allows them to be wrong, which is a wonderful skill to be able to say, I can be wrong and it's still okay. And so I think it's very helpful to encourage that creativity. Tip 4 is watch for your child's cues. If they're getting tired or if they're hungry, this might not be the time to play together. You need to, you got to watch what they're asking you for. Avoiding power struggles. This is, again, tricky for some of us because we have set ideas of what we want to happen. And avoiding power struggles, sometimes you just feel like it has to be this way. How your child's playing doesn't have to be right. So if they're playing with animals, in their world, the mouse can eat the lion. That is okay. It is not right I understand a mouse really can't eat a lion, but you don't have to be right. And you don't have to teach reality to your young child at this point. It doesn't have to be based in realism. It can just be what they want it to be. And then the last one is have fun together. And I know that it's sometimes it's a bit of a struggle to do that, but I promise, keep at it, and it will become more fun for all of you, I would say. What thoughts or questions does that generate from anybody?
Anything? Does it seem doable? Do these things make sense to everyone?
What is the point of doing the play-by-play?
So interesting. And you're right. And that's exactly how I look at it, as a play-by-play. It's like, it's a narrative of what they're doing. Partly what you're doing is showing a child, I am actually looking at you, watching you, and seeing exactly what you're doing. I'm not making any judgments to say whether it's right or wrong. I am not telling you you don't have to do it or can't do it or to do it differently. I am just repeating and seeing exactly what you're doing. So there's a couple of different reasons. One, it really is good for their self-esteem to think that my adult is watching me. Two, it really is helping with language skills. You are able at that point to use a lot of very descriptive words, and those descriptive words will be teaching your children more and more language. So there is some benefit in doing that. And honestly, it really comes down to children who are spoken to and read to actually are smarter in the long run. That's just research out there for years now that says that. So we really encourage just talk, just say exactly what you're seeing.
Yeah, it also gives value to their play. It gives it value. Like, oh, there's a point to this. It gives it value, and it lets them extend it out further. Because if you say, "I wonder what you're going to do after you get the car to the top of the mountain," they might not have even thought about that yet. So when it gives them like another little step to go. And it, again, it's that vocabulary piece. You can use really in-depth vocabulary words here. As your children get older, you can, use some really stronger vocabulary words and descriptive phrases that will really help your child in the long run.
Did you have a question, Reedy?
Oh, no, I just wanted to kind of share with the question. These do make sense, and it is easy to follow. It's just about doing it, and then I think creating a rhythm. So it's kind of like not only are we teaching the child, but we're also teaching ourselves.
You're building in some new habits, and it really does. Building new habits takes time, and that's just basic psychology. It literally takes 21 days to build a new habit. So how are you going to do this? You just have to kind of like almost in a sense force yourself at the beginning, but eventually it does become part of your routine and part of the habits just that you have, and you just make it part of your daily routine. But right now it probably feels a little painful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next piece is really about thinking about, so this is get out your workbook and look at the activity number 5. This is really about how are you going to set some goals for play for the week. And then again, I want you to think about how are you tracking the things that you're doing. So it is repeat of last week. Hopefully you'll have more this week. And I think the one piece that is really important to add on is thinking about how your child reacted. So you're spending that 10 minutes, you've got some goals, you've got some good things that you're doing. And then I want you to really think about, did it make a difference for your child? In the long run, what's going to happen is when your child is happier, when your child feels like they get what they needed, you're going to be happier. It's a lot easier as the adult in this situation to be happier when your kid is happy. So when I see families that, parents are struggling and kids are struggling, once the kids stop struggling as much because they're getting those pieces that need met, you start to see parents being happier. So think about this week as you really, really start to notice how your child reacted to this time that you spent together. And again, it doesn't have to be like formal ongoing notes, just like jot a few things down, because next week we'll talk about it too. So, for example, here are some plays for goals, or goals for play goals. Yes. So I like these because I think that they're going to, some of them are really realistic. So I'm going to try and turn off the television for 10 to 15 minutes and just play with Juan. That's a goal. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it all the time. It means that's what you're shooting for. I'm going to try and stop what I'm doing and focus on Savannah while we're playing. So again, it's put that phone away, turn off the TV, turn off, all the distractions, get it away so that you can just focus in on your kiddo. I'm going to play with each boy one-on-one while my husband gives the other a bath. Part of the reason I like that example is really thinking about how can you find that time? So it might be that, again, like you were saying earlier, Courtney, that, you have to put one to take a nap before you can have the time to spend with the other. So those of you who have multiple children, it is a bigger challenge. Because, you can be in the middle of what you think is uninterrupted play, but here comes the other kiddo along and that can crash in and ruin it. So how do you find that time? And so are there other adults in the house that you can say, hey, while you've got him, I'm going to go do this with her, or vice versa. And I love this last one where it says, I'm going to try and stop being so bossy and let Crystal decide what she wants to play with. So this goes back to the idea of really trying your best to do what your kid wants to play. Even I know dramatic play can be difficult as the adult. I find that when I do dramatic play kinds of things with kids, because I'm not super great at it, I will ask them, tell me what I need to do. Like, you want me to be this superhero, but I'm not sure what this superhero does. Tell me what I need to do. What do I do? Do I fly? Do I crawl? What do I do? Tell me, give me directions. And then for a child to give you the directions and telling you what to do, and then you just do it, is sometimes a little bit easier. So that way it kind of puts you out of being the lead in that, and it puts it back the lead in the child's role, and then you just do what you're told. And you can do that for 10 minutes. Maybe not for your whole lives, but for 10 minutes you can do it. Does that make sense? Do these goals sound realistic to you? They're meant to be quite simple. So you might need to kind of look at it and review it again. Speaking of quite simple.
Speaking of quite simple. So it really is as simple as Sing, Say, Point, Play, which is our literacy campaign in Oakland County. You might have seen it at your local library, our Sing, Say, Point, Play campaign that we have out. I was actually going to play the video, but I don't actually think I'm going to. I think I'm going to send it to you after in the same way, because then you can go to our website and see a whole bunch of different things on our Sing, Say, Point, Play campaign, and just in general, some things we have there as well. So when I send out an email with the PBS Preschool U, I'll also spend our website as well at the GSC. But I did want to talk just a little bit about how it's so simple. The whole campaign of Sing, Say, Point, Play is about doing those 4 things with your young child, and that it can teach children, babies, how to talk, and children how to read. It's literally literacy to sing with your child all the time, to say what you're doing, to point things out and focus on the joint attention that you and your child have together, and to play with them. Those 4 simple things, if you do those every day, I think that great things can happen. And you're, oh, someone's not happy behind you, I don't think, Courtney. and it's fantastic things can come of it. So I'm going to share that with you. Because the videos come out so choppy with us here, one of the good things is when I go through and edit this recording, I put in the actual videos. So if you watch the recording and just watch for the videos, then it's the appropriate volume, it's the appropriate video. I'll put the closed captioning on. So I think it's easier almost to share that way. So that might be how we share videos almost in the future, because it just, I feel like it's not a complete success virtually otherwise. But we do want you to see them all. So we definitely will share them.
Yeah, definitely. And keep in mind whenever I hear the Sing, Say, Point, Play, like there are certain children's songs and artists that are great and that I love listening to. I happen to love Rafi, and I listen to a lot of Rafi music. And when my granddaughter comes over, that is the singing that goes on in my house, is a lot of Rafi music. But there is certainly nothing wrong with just regular radio. I don't know, is radio a thing anymore? So radio music, like when you're in the car and you're just putting on your stereo in your car, there's nothing wrong with that music as well. So keep in mind that we're not trying to make it so that your entire life is surrounded by baby stuff all the time, because you'll go insane. So it can be regular daily things. It doesn't have to be something special or different. When you're pointing, it can be that we're finding flags out on the road as we're driving. So there are different ways that we can do these things that are just part of still being kind of grown up, not necessarily everything immersed in babyhood.
And if you think about incorporating these 4 things, singing, saying, and pointing and playing, in stuff you're already doing, so that if you're at the grocery store, you're pointing out the fruit that you're buying, and you're talking about the fruit that you're buying, and you're, talking about things like, I wonder what this banana is going to taste like when we peel it. How should I peel this banana when we peel it? All those kind of conversations with a child that's 2 months or a child that's 4 are really valuable conversations to have. And you don't have to find extra time in your day to do singing, saying, pointing, and playing. It should just be part of what you already do. And like I said, I will share that with you so you'll get the chance to see it. But
Good.
okay, friendship skills. This is one of my favorites. Okay, so we're going to just take a look a little bit about some of these friendship skills and how to help your child learn them. So these are great friendship skills just in general to have. You should be able to give suggestions. You should be able to share toys and other materials. You should be able to take turns. You should be helpful, give compliments. Those are genuine compliments. They're not, I'm really old, so none of you will know this, but there was this old character named Eddie Haskell who used to be on Leave It to Beaver, and he was famous for like just giving these untrue compliments. And so Karen's laughing because she knows she's old like me, so she gets it. But it really is, the compliments need to be genuine and real. And also, this is a huge one. Understand how and when to give an apology. A 2-year-old really can't give an apology because they don't understand the meaning. So let's dig a little bit into these friendship skills a little bit. So giving suggestions about how to play, oftentimes kids will say, they won't let me play. And when a child walks up to another group of kids and says, can I play? Sometimes those kids will say no. And occasionally it's just because those kids don't want to play with that child and they're not being kind. But more often than not, it's because their play has already been established. Everyone has been given their roles, and they don't know how to add someone else into the play. So if they already are playing on a playground and they have a mom and a dad and a dog, they don't need anybody else, and it's just they're already in their roles. So when a child says, can I play? They're like, no, we don't have a role for you. So one of the things that's a really good way about teaching a child about how to play with play and offer suggestions is to go in the same way that you go in with your child by watching them play first. So just tell your child, watch what they're doing. See if there's a role for you to be. See if you can be the cat. See what you can do. Watch what they're doing with the cars. If they're moving them down, go ahead and get yourself a car and follow them. Because sometimes it's just, there's not a space for them. But if they figure out where the space is, it can really work wonders. So I think it is really, there are some things you can do to work on being able to get your child to be able to figure out how to play. And all of that's going to be helpful. Friendship skills are huge. Friendship skills are huge. They're huge in life forever. I'm sure you know people as adults that aren't great friends, and I feel like that's it's really a good thing. So, in order to help your child learn and play and make friends, there is an activity in your workbook. It's activity 6, and it's just a list of all different kinds of activities that you should do in working on having your child play with others. Some of it doesn't really apply as much as it ordinarily would because we're in a pandemic, right? So there are some pieces you're probably not playing in the large groups, and if you are, they might be with certain people. So there's a few things I want to point out on that list that I'm just going to kind of go over just for a minute. It is important to plan ahead when you're arranging a playtime. Plan for what you're going to do. Have grapes ready for your snack. Have stuff ready. I think that's really important. It is important if you're able to, and again, during COVID, it might be hard. If it is important to have a child who already has good play skills. So if it's a child that kind of already can, that will help foster the situation. It's nice to have enough toys and materials. So if you only have one Barbie castle and 3 girls coming over, that can be kind of an issue, especially if you don't have enough Barbies to go in the castle. So whatever you're playing with, it's nice to have enough materials. Always stay as nearby as you can to help, but don't over-engage. Don't get involved. Allow there to be some conversation and allow there even to be small conflicts, because you might find that kids can work things out really better than if you jump right in. Just see what happens. Obviously, you want to stay close because you don't want anyone to be in danger of anyone getting hit or whatever might happen. Keep playtimes short as possible, because the longer it is, the sometimes the harder it is. So those are all things that you can kind of do before and during the play. What you can do
Can I throw
after
in
the
a
play.
couple more? Because these are 2 that I find that come up kind of often. One is also too, if your child has a special toy that they don't want anyone to touch, like no one can touch, whatever it is, my special, water gun, whatever. Just put it away where none of the other kids can see it. Like just actually take your child and say, well, let's put it in my room, in my closet. And that way no one will know where it is or it can't get to it. Because that's, to me, one of the biggest pieces that ends up happening is I didn't want anyone to touch this or that, then just put it away before anyone even shows up. And then the other thing I was just going to throw in there was the idea of the length of time. I mean, really, kids can't play together for a long stretch, like you were saying, Christine. So I usually say, make sure you have breaks. So you play for 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 tops, and then you take a break so kids can have a snack. And then maybe they play for another 10 or 15 minutes, and then maybe it's time for everyone to take a break and use the bathroom. So it's just that kind of idea that you're breaking up the play a little bit, because what ends up happening is if there's too long of a stretch, they're starting to use all of their energies and something ends up happening in the end that isn't usually a good thing. So that's kind of what I've found over time, is that having those shorter pieces and breaks in between. That means the adults got to come in and say, hey, I'm wondering if anyone needs to use the potty right now. Now might be a good time. I could, So that's your opportunity to kind of see what's going on and know what's going on, but break it up a little bit. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but.
I forgot about that one for sure. So I do want to talk just for a minute about what you can do after the play has happened. Make sure your child knows what went well and what maybe didn't go well. You really need to have a conversation about this. I remember once when my oldest daughter was probably about 8, she had a friend over. And it was just a friend as she was getting a little older and asserting her independence a little bit more. And this was not someone that I would have chosen for her to be close friends with. It's just one of those things as parents, you just kind of know. And I said to her afterwards, I said, I noticed this, and I talked about a specific incident that I saw something and this little girl just completely lied to me. And I didn't say this child lied to me. I said, I noticed that it seemed like she wasn't saying the truth. That's just what I noticed. And I noticed that also she wasn't really nice to your younger sister. That's just what I noticed while you were playing. I noticed she was nice to you. And I just left it at that. It wasn't a thing. There wasn't a long, and it took her a little while, but eventually she kind of started to notice. And that's just kind of an easy way to kind of see what's going on. But at the same time, you really want to compliment your child's play skills at this time. I saw you share that blue truck, which is your very favorite. Thank you for sharing. And you let him have it for a long time. That was really generous. It's a great time to use those positive comments and fill up that bank with a little bit of positive encouragement. It is a time to talk about what you've seen. It's just describing again what you've seen. It's not judging. It's not right or wrong. It's just describing what you see, right? And ask your child if they liked it. Did you like having Karen over to play with you? Did you like it? What did you like best about it? What could we do different next time? What new toys can we put out? Those silly little things that we think are not really, we don't even give it a second thought because we're adults and we've figured this all out yet, right? They can really help your child to develop those play skills.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any thoughts or anything about that? Karen, do you have anything you want to add?
Just the one last thing that I always think of is kids are watching us as adults on a regular basis. So how you are with your friends is likely how your kids are going to be with their friends. So just remember, these little people, they're sponges and they are going to be absorbing everything that's happening with you as the adult. So they are watching you. They are watching you and they are picking up on your interactions with other people.
I also wanted to mention too, a couple thoughts that you can do during COVID to make, if you don't want to meet with people in person, there are a couple of ways where you can develop play skills over a Zoom meeting. If you both had the same set of Legos or even different sets of Legos, if you both have Legos to play with, let's have you both play with Legos and watch each other on your screen. You can learn things like taking turns. I'm going to show you what I'm going to make, and then you show me what you're going to make. You can work on things like vocabulary. You can work on things like kind of like multitasking, what you have in front of you and what's physically in front of you on the screen. There can be some good things that can come of it. It's not as easy. I'm just going to be honest with you. With young children, a flat world does not make much sense. For anyone that's 2 or under, they can see faces, but it doesn't mean much when it's flat. They don't know the world is 3-dimensional really yet. So when they see it flat, they don't realize that things have depth. So I think it is important to, if you can, be physically there, but there are some ways, especially as your children get a little bit older, 3, 4, 5, they certainly can find ways to play with each other virtually. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions about that? Does anyone have any
Good ideas on how
ideas on what you've done? You might have better ideas than Karen and I have never dealt with a pandemic either. So when our kids were little, we didn't do this. So yeah.
Yeah.
My friend hosts a letter of the week every Monday with 4 kids, and she reads stories, and then they all have to find a show and tell and talk about it. And I've also done, like my 4-year-old and her friend will both play with Play-Doh on Zoom with their friend and then just talk about it. I've found that when you both choose the same thing to play with, the play date goes better because kids don't really know how to talk on, I mean, they're not very good conversationalists in general. So talking on the video thing is hard, but if they both have a thing to play with, it works better.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. Great suggestions. Play-Doh's a great one. Lots you can do with that. Any other thoughts from anyone else?
Okay. We'll keep going. So kind of as we move along here, I guess it kind of even piggybacks on the pieces that Christine was just talking about, the making sure that you're following up with kids after play, and thinking about what kind of encouraging comments you might want to give, or like she was saying too, open-ended comments. So what's interesting is that what we want to be able to do is think about, when we think of children and their negative or what we might call challenging behavior that we don't want them to, what you really need to do is start to think of what's the opposite. So if I don't want them, if it's annoying to me that they're not listening and that's a problem, what do you want them to be doing? So to say that if a child is not listening, the desired behavior is not really, I want them to listen, because it's not very specific. So we want to think about, in this case, they talk about, you want your child to be following directions, right? So when they do follow directions, that's your opportunity as the parent to make sure that you're following up with your positive comments and saying that you noticed it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for following the directions. I really appreciate that. And then you typically want to do some kind of physical contact in some way. It might just be a pat on the head, a rub on the back. It might be a hug. I mean, whatever it is that you have or that you likely do at home. So with this, you can kind of see where we're going to, is the idea if the challenging behavior that a child is yelling, first of all, check yourself, because most kids who yell typically have parents who yell. So I will tell you, if you are a yeller at home, you will have children who are yellers. And sometimes I know that's hard to hear. But the reality is, again, our kids are sponges. They're going to pick up everything that's around them. So the best thing that you can do is get yourself in check, lower your voice, lower your tone, watch your tone, watch your volume, and really think about the way that you're interacting. And so that's where we want to be able to say, if we want kids to be using their inside voices, as the adult, you need to be using your inside voice. And when you notice them doing that, you need to make sure that you're noticing it and saying, wow, thank you so much for using your inside voice. It used to hurt me when that outside voice would come on and I would have to cover my ears, and now I don't have to. Thanks so much. High five. So thinking about when you've got this idea of what don't I want to see? This is driving me crazy. I want this to stop. What is it that you're looking for? So there's always something on the opposite side that you really want to see instead. Does that make sense? So as we move along here, I want you to keep this in mind, because this is important to think about, that this whole idea of positive attention and giving your kids the feedback that they need to continue to have that kind of behavior is something that you have to continuously work on. So with that, I'm not gonna go into here, but you can check this out later. There is a site that I often find myself going to. It's called childmind.org, and they have some really wonderful articles. So if you're a reader, this might be a good place to go look. It's typically their articles are not super long, and they're written for parents, so it's not super clinical. Even though I'm a clinician, I tend to turn to them because I think they have just some great thoughts and different phrases that I use. But they do have one article that's called The Power of Positive Attention that is just magnificent. So I highly recommend that you might want to check that out later. But I just pulled this quote right from it, because it says, essentially, rather than chiding them for what they're doing wrong, we want to catch kids doing right. It's a simple shift, but one that goes against centuries of parenting norms and takes some practice before it becomes second nature. The idea, again, is going back to practice, practice, practice. So you may not get this right every time, but it's the idea of going back and saying, don't give up, don't stop, keep trying, keep making this work for you, and it really will eventually become your norm. Saying those words of encouragement will become a norm for you. It'll just kind of start coming out of your mouth before you even think about it. But it takes a little while to get there. So it's building a new habits. Super hard, but super easy, right? Okay. So in your workbook, there is a space for you to think about what are the things that are challenging for you at home that you're dealing with your child. So what is the opposite of that? What is it that you really want to see? So this is an opportunity for you to think about, here's all these awful things that are driving me crazy, especially now because we're all home all the time. But what is it that I'm really looking for? And is it developmentally appropriate? And is it reasonable? Are these things that my child at this age can manage? So some of these are for me, would be super easy to work on. Some of them are a little bit more difficult. I always say that the things that have to do with the child's body and body language are really, really hard because we don't have control of their bodies. So, so it's, some of these can be challenging, super challenging. But I think right now in your workbook, before next session, this is kind of what I want you to think about, if you can, is what's the challenging behavior that you're dealing with? And then on the opposite side, what is it that you really want? So if you can take that time to focus in, it can be one or two things. It doesn't, you don't have to have an entire list of a gazillion things. It might be one or two things that you're just struggling with. Make sense? Okay. So, look, it's 2:00. So as kind of like a wrap up, I think it's important today that we really talked about playing with your kid. That's kind of where we came from, is really thinking about making sure that you're following your child's lead. So 10 minutes a day, if you can do it, 10 minutes a day.
I just want to add a couple of things. As we
go
get
ahead.
through, we're going to get way more in depth on specific behaviors, on doing, we get way more in depth. But the reason why we start so basic and we're drilling this play home is because this piece is so important. This base that we set is so important. So many of the little itty bitty things that come up are just fixed by working on these things. So it's not, I don't want you to feel like the entire time we're going to just talk about playing with your child. We might refer to it here and there again, and we're going to talk about those 10 minutes all the time, but there will be a lot more things, a lot more strategies we get deeper into. And one of the things that we'd like to share with you as well is we want to send you each a children's book for your family that will kind of address maybe some of these things that we're working on. So the email that I sent to you a little bit earlier, yesterday, I think, I included Millie Wright's email, and any emails that you've gotten from us originally were from Millie. So if you, Millie just put it in the chat. Thanks, Millie. So if you could send Millie your address, since we aren't meeting in person, we would ordinarily bring you a book. If you can send Millie your address, we're going to try, Millie, next week, right, to get a book out to everybody if we can. We want to get a children's book out to you that hopefully you'll be able to read with your child. And it might work on some of these skills. It might work on emotions. It might work on, there's some things that we might send you that might work on it. And hopefully if you'd like it, we'll see if we can send you another one at the end of the time as well. So if you, we'd like you to give a little bit of a library from us. It's our favorite gift to give, the gift of reading. So please, if you can connect with Millie and get your email address to her, or get your real address to her email address, then we will help you with that, with getting those out to you. So I just wanted to mention that. And I also just want to make sure if anyone would like to say anything or any other pieces. I know we haven't, I know Stephanie and Reedy, we met you the first time, but Tanya, I'm not sure if we did meet you. So if you wouldn't mind telling us the ages of your kids, and if you want to, if you don't want to, that's fine as well. But we just wanted to say hi and welcome, and we're glad you came.
Hi. Hi, I'm Tania. So I have two kids. One of my kids' age is 9 years and other one is 4 years.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that with us. We did that last week, and I had seen that you had signed up, and so I wanted to make sure that you were.
Yeah, I missed the class last week, but today I listening from the beginning, and it's very helpful. Thank you so much, guys. You all.
Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, I hope it is. We hope so. And we will continue to send those to everybody. So if you miss one, or if you want to, I wrote in my email, if you want to share with a partner or a grandparent, it does take a village to do this. So, and I know we're at 2:02, so if anyone needs to leave, feel free. I apologize for going a couple minutes over. I just wanted to make sure you knew we want you to, to.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, right now we're building a foundation. So that's kind of where we're at. These first couple sessions are really talking about building this foundation, and we are going to get into some deeper nitty gritty stuff as we move forward. So each session kind of builds on the next. So that's where, yeah, definitely share the videos afterwards with anyone else that needs to see them, and work on these pieces. And if you do it, if you put the work in, I guarantee you will see a difference. Guarantee you. So good. All right. We will see everyone next week. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.